Good afternoon. Welcome to the CDBG special meeting, December 10th. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in us and be informed so you can have a more enlightened city council and know what the events are happening here at City Hall. With those opening remarks, call the meeting to order and roll call.
Committee members: Markarian.
Yes.
Oganessian.
Here.
Olivares is absent. Sinanian.
Present.
Chair Cornell.
Here.
1B, report of recording secretary regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the December 10th, 2012 special meeting of the CDBG Advisory Committee was posted on Thursday, December 6, 2012 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 2, staff or committee comments. Are there any comments from the committee or staff?
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Carrillo.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I just wanted to make a couple of announcements. One is that we do have an event coming up this Thursday called the Homeless Senior Connect Day. I believe there's some flyers there that are on your desks. It is an event that the city and Ascensia jointly puts together to provide resources and information to the Glendale homeless population and the senior population of the city of Glendale. It is a free event held at the National Guard Armory at 220 East Colorado. Certainly like to invite the committee to drop by. It'll be from 10 to 2 p.m. and we'll have, again, various agencies. I believe we have about 35 different agencies coming to provide information for the community. So it's a very well attended event, and certainly like to invite the committee to participate in that event.
Very good.
Thank you.
The second item is that, very similar to our item 3A today, we do have another request for another special meeting by the Glendale Adventist Medical Center for a project that has been involved with ADA restrooms and the air conditioning units at the Glendale Adventist Medical Center Community Center building. And fortunately, there's bids that have gone over the estimates, and they want to scale back a project and transfer funds to the air conditioning. So it will need to be approved by the advisory committee, and so we're looking at possibly the second week of January. We did want to make sure that we do have a quorum for this. I believe Committee Member Markarian is not available. I'm not eligible to partake, so we need the other members to be present. So we'll look at the week of this January 7th, I believe, and see if we can get a quorum for that day. It will be very much like today, about a 1-hour meeting. But I want to just put that on your radar screens. If anybody's leaving on vacation or time off, then we will need to inform you and selecting the date. We'll send an email just to advise you of the meeting date, and then have the committee here at the meeting.
Mr. Curry, if I can make a recommendation, week of January 7th, if we could have the latter half of the week, that'd be great, because otherwise it falls too close to Armenian Christmas, Orthodox Christmas.
Christmas is on Saturday. The 7th is a Monday. Is that a Monday? Or?
Christmas night
Yes.
is Saturday.
Yes. Sure. We'll do it middle. We were looking at Wednesday
Okay. Yep.
9th, I believe.
So that's not firm
That's
yet.
the 9th.
Not firm. We'll send you out a date, but that's a good reminder to be aware of, because Monday will probably be some activities following the Armenian Christmas on the 6th, so we'll probably get a date for you on that week.
So you advise the committee per email when it is confirmed then, as far as the time?
Correct. We'll set some dates out and see if you're available.
Okay.
And that's all the report for staff.
Madam Secretary, if you could read the item 3A.
Yes. Item 3, action items at A, review and approve a request by Homenet Men Glendale Ararat Chapter to cancel the Homenet Men Security and Safety Improvements Project and transfer remaining funds of $27,999.11 to the Homenet Men Kids Activity Corner Project.
Any comments here? Aaron, do you have anything that you might want to add on this?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to give the committee a quick, brief report on this item,
Okay.
if I may. Thank you. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I wanted to just introduce this action item very briefly. I believe I put a very quick report for you to follow. It is a request by Homenet Men Glendale Ararat Chapter to cancel a project, and I use the word cancel, but they do have a two-phase project on that activity. One was to do security and safety improvements. First was the cameras and security system for the Homenet Men facility, and the second was a fire alarm system, which at that time was necessary for a fire permit. We did complete, Homenet did complete the first phase of the project, was installation of cameras. They since then went out to bid for their fire alarm system, monitoring system, and bids did come out higher than expected over the budget, approximately $16,000 over the budget. So in looking at the fire alarm system, we did meet with fire department and see what alternatives could be made to have the facility certainly comply with fire department requirements. And it was noted that Homenet actually did not need a fire alarm system anymore since they did upgrade with sprinklers. They do have a fire system there, but their fire department agreed to allow them to use a central monitoring system, essentially a system that needs to be monitored by a third-party agency that would monitor any fire alarms or any sprinklers, so that the fire department gets notified immediately of anything, even when they're not in the building. So Homenet did agree to do that on their own. They actually installed it about a month ago, and the system was approved by the fire department. So on the same track, they have a second project, and that's a 2011-12 project for their kids' corner, the kids' activity corner, the youth corner, which is in the new building next to the new basketball court. It's an unused area right now that is was approved to have a indoor play area for the younger participants and a area to provide some other recreational activities. All along, Homenet had been going through the building permit process, and they did actually receive a building permit for the project. But from that project, from that building permit, there was some costs that were anticipated, some additional construction costs for codes and some electrical costs, which meant that their original estimate for their project went up about $40,000, I believe, about $42,000. And so the request here today is to ask the committee to allow Homenet to transfer the approximately $28,000 in CDBG from their current fire safety alarm system project and cancel that and complete that and transfer it over to the Kids Corner project, which allows them to meet the construction needs and budget. With that, Homenet is still short some funds, and Homenet has agreed to contribute about $15,000 towards the project so that it could move on and be completed. A lot of that work has already been done with design work. The building permit has been pulled. In fact, the building permit has to be extended so that we give them enough time to get committee approval and get the bidding process started. So it is a project that's ready to be implemented. The funds, if they don't get transferred over to Homenet, it will go back to the general fund of CDBG. But that means Homenet would still be short about $42,000, and then this project, the Kids Corner, would be delayed for another year while they come back and apply for funds. If they do apply, which the deadline is December 20th next week. So Staff does recommend to committee to approve a motion to cancel the fire alarm safety and security improvement project and transfer the remaining funds of $27,999.19 in CDBG funding to the fiscal year 2011-12 Youth Activities Corner project, and also extending their contract to June 30th, 2013 to complete the improvements. In your packet, there is a letter from Home and Edman describing what they were anticipating doing, and also a estimate of the construction cost is $186,968. There's also a contractor's estimate that we received as well, and also, and last page is the original estimate. You can see there was an increase in cost, largely for the electrical and other construction costs, which were unanticipated. So we basically had reviewed this and agreed that it seems to be a very good estimate of what it would cost to finish the work for this project.
Any follow-up? Any comments?
I think staff did a great job just going back and kind of giving us an overview of this project. And as long as the fire alarm is in place and that system is working and has been approved by the fire department, I consider that project complete. So whatever there is that can be, the balance that is left over, I think it should be given to a project that is outstanding. Home Edman has a history of completing its projects, and I would hate to see this Kids Corner project that I think they really have kind of a good grip on starting, and the way that this looks, it's going to be moving quite fast. So to me, transferring the funds and having another project be completed, something that's important to them, and I think it's important for the city, is a great way to kind of balance this. So, that's my thoughts on this.
I'll say a couple of words. Of course, we always like having a clear picture at the beginning of the process as to what money is being allocated to what, but these kinds of things happen. In light of the fact that our youth programs are very important, and we have less and less funding for various youth programs available, and our libraries are now closing at 5 or 6 p.m. in the evening, I think this is a very worthwhile program to make sure that it's completed so that it can be used for its proper purpose. So I support it also.
Alex, any good?
Well, Home Edman again, I support all my committee members. Always been an outstanding source, outstanding place for all the young youth to go. So as far as, I don't see any problems with it. Fire department cleared. There's absolutely no reason not to transfer the funds. But for something they can benefit from quicker.
Okay. I have some comment I'll make. I'd like to invite the director up here, Armin Gregorian, if you'd like to say a few words on this.
Mr. Chair, member of the Commission, first off, I would like to wish you all happy holidays. They're all upon us. I believe Moises gave a very good explanation of where we were, why we were there, and what we intend to do. I do not have anything to add to his report. Unless you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer.
Any estimate on when this project will be complete, the Kids Corner?
Well, the way that I was told by Moises, if you approve that, then the council has to approve it. As soon as they approve it, if they approve, then we will have to announce it in the newspaper, go out to bids. Mm-hmm. It has to be at least a month before, from the day of the announcing until the day that we open. In the process, we will have a walkthrough with the potential contractors that want to apply for the job and want to give the bid. And at the end of the month, when they give us the bid, and with city staff, we open those bids, and the best bid, if it's acceptable to us, then it's a go. We sign the contract, and immediately we will start.
Thank you.
You found out this situation right after your bids came in? Was that back in, August, when you had your bids come in on this?
Usually, Mr. Chair, we wait until we get the signed contract from the city. Once we got the signed contract, we went through the process, and then during the process, we found out that because we were going to do the fire alarm first and then do the kids' corner, but then the fire alarm came up 17,000, actually about 60% higher than what we had in the bank. So we started consulting with the city staff, and we said that there's no way that we can afford for a project that we have only $27,000, spend another $17,000 out of our budget. So as Mr. Carrillo mentioned, we went into a discussion with the fire department. They were very helpful. They came there and looked around, and they said, if you install a monitoring system, that's all is required. So we went back to the city, and we gave them the letters that we received from fire department, and they accepted. We installed the fire department. We got the final on that from City of Glendale. So we're ready to go, except for the money that was allocated for Kids Corner only is not enough, because this period of time, one subcontractor I was talking to, which was the electrical, which is the highest difference in the pricing, he said that all the equipment and the supplies that they are buying, 50 to 60% those prices have gone up. That is the reason that the electrical portion of that project is really high. So that is the reason why we were short again and asked for that at $27,000 to be moved to this project. In the meantime, we spent about $47.50 for the installation of fire monitoring system. We spent additional money to extend our permit. So we spent quite a money from our pocket to be able to start this project.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Sure. I have a question for Mr. Carrillo. This has come up, no fault of what Mr. Gorin said, circumstances. During my tenures, not once, twice, but 3 or 4 times now. And Mr. Oliveris brought this to our attention. I believe it was maybe the 2010-11 sessions here about the transfers and whatnot. And we had some guidelines. And I was just wondering, I know you were present at that time, if you remember what those guidelines were that we were going to try to adhere to when a situation such as we have right at this time presented itself?
Yes, Chairman Cornell, members of the committee. There was discussion on guidelines for a project called it's Los Angeles County Neighborhood Legal Services when they canceled a canceled a parking lot improvement project now. There is a parking lot improvement project, and requested to take those funds into a roofing project. The roofing project was never a project. It wasn't it was a new activity which committee had not at all approved. The guidance and discussion centered around that anytime any projects like that come about, that they must come to the committee. There wasn't any formal guidance policy for any project. I think that was still being discussed, whether or not automatically any project with canceled funds will go back to the general fund, or it could be used for other new projects, or a new project with an existing nonprofit. There wasn't any guidance per se or policy. It was just certainly to come back to the committee with some good details, some good background on pricing, but no specific direction or policy guidance. And we followed that guidance with Home and Edmond to ask them to provide us a letter, provide us a detailed estimate of the cost. This is a transfer of one Home and Edmond project was approved by the committee to a second project approved by the committee already, so the committee had already reviewed that project. But I think the guidance maybe is that if there's a cancellation, that it will not go to a newer project that has not been reviewed by the committee. Therefore, that committee would have to get a new proposal from that agency. So that still, again, has not been finalized as a policy. If the committee would like to have that on a discussion item or agenda, we can do that as well.
Our action today on 3A still needs to be confirmed by City Council?
No, I was present during that, the entire process with the parking lot and the roof, and that's exactly how I recall the situation to play out. We were being asked to basically fund a project that hadn't been in front of us previously, hadn't been really deliberated on, hadn't gotten our approval, partial, non-partial, and that's what prompted the more critical approach. So the situation is somewhat different here, although, like I said, clearly, when we're presented with the information and we're making decisions about allocations, we do want to have as much information as possible so that we have clarity as to what's to come in the next year. But these kinds of things happen, and since both projects in front of us are projects that we've seen before and we've allocated monies to, I don't see it being a problem.
And also, since the completion of the project really depends on this money, again, this transfer and the reallocation would really make one more project be completed, hopefully. So I really think the scenario is a little different.
Anything else? Okay. Madam Secretary, if you could, oh, yes, I'd like on this, if we could, we have a first.
Yes, I will move on the motion. I'll have my Madam Secretary read the motion.
Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Madam Secretary, if you could call roll.
Certainly. Committee members Markarian,
Yes.
Oganessian,
Yes.
Olivares is absent, Sinanian,
Yes.
Chair Cornell.
Yes.
Next item, item 4, public communications. I don't have any cards. Item 5 is adjournment.
I have no cards. There's
Any events that we're missing?
just this one here, I see for the Senior Homeless Day here. I'd like to mention to our many seniors, this is going to be hosted by Essentia. It's going to be for December 13th. It's going to be at the Glendale Armory at 220 East Colorado Street. And it's from 10 to 2 o'clock. And some of the services will be for medical and dental screenings, employment assistance, veterans benefits counselings. If you haven't had your flu shot yet, that'll be available. The staff will go over government benefits, child care services, health care referrals and testing, and emergency and other housing referrals. So as I said, plus a lunch will be served. And again, it's December 13th at the Glendale Armory between 10 and 2 o'clock. And do we have any other comments here? I would just like to ask Mr. Krill, before we adjourn, if you can give the committee an update. I know you had one technical meeting for the RFPs that were approved on November 13th. If you could give us an update as far as the attendance there and maybe comparison to how it was last year, and just give us just a brief update.
Sure, Mr. Chair. I was reading your mind, so I actually did bring the list for you. We did have 20 agencies participate, and what was basically non-mandatory, although most all agencies that have come in the past were there. So it was a full house for the agencies, and there will certainly be a few new agencies participating in the event and the proposal process, more so on the capital improvement side, and also a few in the social services for agencies that were not approved last year who will come back again and request funding for fiscal year 2013-14. Proposals are due next week, December 20th, 5:30 p.m. We have been getting calls and questions, but so far it's been very, very light at this point, and hopefully we expect agencies to finalize proposals and get them in on time. You will have the packets next in January, and that will allow you some time to review them. No sudden big surprises, but again, it's the agencies that we've known in the past and maybe a few other new agencies as well.
Bids are still due, what, this is the 21st?
The 20th of
Oh,
December.
20th.
The 20th of December at 5:30 p.m. That's next
How
week.
does the turnout and number of packets that were picked up for the RFP compare to last year?
It's the same. It's the
Same?
same, yes. Although we have less money, the need is still there, and agencies certainly are looking for funding everywhere to complete their projects.
Question.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
During our last commission meeting, not the joint meeting, but the last meeting that we had, and we were looking at the preliminary numbers, the amounts, and I believe the committee decided to take one of the pre-designated programs for the capital improvement projects, if I remember correctly, and basically allocate that money to.
We're going to take that
Yeah, we were
into
going to
council.
take that. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to know, and if anything's been done with that regard. Has council addressed that issue? Have they looked at that? Has that come up in front of the council?
It did come up to council. We had a council meeting on November 13th. The Council and the Housing Authority, the item was put in our report as a Plan B. There was Plan A, which was the priorities as were presented to you, and then Plan B was the alternative to take funds from the park project, and those funds would go to the nonprofit funds. Nonprofit funds were $210,000, adding another $500,000 to it would have been $750,000. The council did discuss that, deliberate that, discussed that amongst themselves, and it was felt that the council approved Plan A, felt that the priorities were still city park systems, and that the funding would remain the same at $210,000. However, there was still discussions of, let's see what comes in. You know, sometimes there's a bit more good proposals that come in that are a little bit over the $210,000 that maybe the committee would highly recommend to the council to make adjustments in some of the capital projects, primarily the park project. But that will remain to see what comes in on the proposals. So that motion stood as the $210,000 to RFP, and that's when we went out to RFP for the agencies for them to solicit funds. But again, the committee will need to look at some projects. There will be more than $210,000 in proposals, obviously, with probably 5 other agencies.
Always is.
But the money is very tight in all different ways, so there'll be, some projects that are certainly worthwhile, but the council felt that there was a park project and improvement projects, and specifically playground improvements that are well needed down in the South Glendale, Southern Glendale area.
Thank you.
I have one question, Mr. Carrillo. When I attended, Mr. Oliveris was here on the council meeting for November 13th at the time they approved the RFP packages. You had an exception this time around where you had, I believe, 3 options. I think A, B, and C. And I was a little bewildered, left on cloud 9 as to why the 3 options. Normally you just have one. where you approve the whole package and everything for the RFPs. But you had different options. You had two options for A and B, then I think a separate option for C. So I just wanted to get an understanding why this was deviated this time around.
Chair Cornell, if I may answer that question. Staff presented two options. We presented a Plan A, a funding allocation plan, and a Plan B funding allocation plan. If you recall, at the last CDBG Advisory Committee meeting, I indicated to the Commission that we would be doing that we would have the plan recommended by staff and the plan recommended by the Advisory Committee, and point out to the City Council how they were different, and that ultimately, of course, the final decision laid with the City Council in terms of which plan they wanted to approve. And it is not uncommon for staff to submit reports to the City Council giving a staff recommendation and then a different recommendation by the various commissions. And so that's what we did. And it was primarily because, first of all, it's rare that there is a difference between a staff recommended funding allocation plan and one recommended by the Advisory Committee. And so knowing that the staff recommendation was based on the history with the council and the council's expressed priorities, I felt compelled that we needed to show them both plans, and so we did.
Okay. Any other comments by committee members? If not, then I'm going to adjourn the meeting with this saying that all of us on the committee, staff, wish the viewers and everyone happy holidays and a safe and happy 2013. And looks like we're going to see you next year. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.